Lions Lounge Lockdown, episode 52. Anton Rogan. Anton, mate, so much for your time. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Dan. Nice to have a little chat with you, son.
Yeah, I've had a couple of chats with you. I luckily managed to make contact with your wife originally, and she must have thought I was an absolute charlatan because she was calling me on a withheld number, and a withheld numbers come through as silent on my phone, and she must have thought, who is this absolute idiot? But hopefully I'll change your mind in the next hour, maybe not.
I just seen earlier on, Dan, I'm not very technical when it comes to phones and stuff like this, so I just have to get it all sorted out for me. So yeah. I'm quite happy like that.
Brilliant, mate. You're 2 years a Millwall player, and I said I put something out on social media earlier. 2 years at the club, 95 to 97. You saw 3 managers, administration, relegation, and in the season 96-97, you scored 8 goals from left back in 30 games. You actually, in a couple of games as well, scored 2 goals in each game. But
I did indeed.
So lots to cover. But before we delve into Millwall, I'm very interested in the Celtic Rangers rivalry. I know you scored in an Old Firm game. So let's wind it right back, 1966, Belfast. How does a boy from Belfast manage to reach the bright lights of Glasgow and Celtic?
It was so peculiar, Dan. It just really happened by sort of more like a freak, you know, because when I was younger, I played a lot of football or soccer. Well, believe it or not, in West Belfast, sometimes you call it soccer because they like at my school to play the Gaelic games.
Which you played as well, didn't you? You played Gaelic football.
I played Gaelic football, which I loved, you know, I loved it. But I was stuck in between the two of them, and I love both of them. They're both fantastic games. But how I got into football, how I got into professional football was so strange, Dan. You know, one of my friends, when we were 16, his dad organised a little team, just me and all my friends from where we lived in Belfast. They entered this little football tournament at a little team called Distillery. Don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they were in the Irish League. They played the likes of Glentoran and Linfield and teams like that, you know. We're probably one of the lesser teams in the Irish League, but anyway, it was a nice little club, a good setup and all that. So we went up to play in the tournament, Dan, and we got to the final. We got beat on penalties in the final. And I remember walking out after the final, and so this bloke came up to me and says, "Oh, can I have a word with you?" And I'm thinking, what do you want to speak to me for? And I was actually, believe it or not, the manager of Distillery, Roy Welch. And he says, "Can I have a word? Where's your manager? I want to speak to your manager." So eventually he spoke to Dominic and says, "Look, I'd like this lad to come up here and sign him, you know, because he's 16, he looks as if he's got a little bit about him." And I walked out and I went, "No chance." Not interested whatsoever, Dan. Seriously.
What was that?
I was happy enough playing with Gaelic football, my little bits of soccer, and just enjoying myself with my friends in Belfast. You know, I never realised sort of the enormity of it, Dan, until, believe it or not, talking about having a few beers. My mum and dad always were there on a Saturday night, Dan, you know, so it was an excuse at 16, 17, well, where all the lads have a couple of beers up in the mountain. So the usual crack, mum and dad out, me, 6, 7 cans of Hart or whatever, back in before they get into bed. And this is the gospel truth, Dan. I walked in this Saturday night about 11:30. We usually get back at about 12. And I walked in at 11:30 this Saturday night. My mum and dad are sitting in the living room. And I went, "Oh." And obviously,
I'm in the shit, yeah.
Yeah, a big panic was set in here. So my dad looked at me and went, "Where have you been then?" I says, "I was out up the mountain where all the boys just had a couple, 2 cans." He went, "All right." He went, "There's to be 2 men here tonight looking at you." And I went, "Oh my God, Belfast, that's not good if somebody comes to your door looking at you." You know, the history of Belfast, you know. And I went, "Oh, right." And he went, "It was the manager and the chief scout of Distillery. And they're really interested in you signing." My mum was sitting on the settee, Dan, and my dad was there, and I went, "Dad, you know, I'm not really interested, you know, I'd rather just mess around and play with the lads and, you know, do whatever." He just looked at me and went, "I think you should sign." You know, because he knew how to drink at me, and I'm thinking, well, all right, then I'll sign. So I then, believe it or not, Dan, a week later, I went up and trained with him, signed, and within, what was I was probably just 16 and a half. I was playing in the first team against, I was quite slight in them days, you know, and I was playing in the first team against Linfield and Glentoran in the Irish League. And that's a hard league, Dan. You know, you can ask anybody. It's a very physical league. Yeah. So I held my own there. Well, I held my own to a certain extent. And then all of a sudden, there was, every time I would come home on a Saturday night, all my friends buy the paper in Belfast. "Oh, so-and-so are interested in you. So-and-so are interested in you." And then eventually there was a lot of clubs interested. This is probably about after a year in the first team, Dan, you know?
Yeah.
And to be fair, all the pros there, for me, the older pros were both sides, Catholics and Protestants. A couple of lads have just died. Buster Andrews died. Bertie McMinn died. They were from the Shankill. And I was from the Falls Road. But God, did they look after me, Dan? You know, they were absolutely brilliant to me. Marty Quinn, another one. They were just legendary looking after me as I played along. Anyway, all these clubs stopped getting interested. And then eventually one night I come in after the game. It just, I think we get to be that afternoon anyway. And one of the lads handed me the paper because a lot of my friends were Celtic fans because if you're in West Belfast, you're either Celtic or Rangers, you know, one or the other. But he had a paper and he went, Tom, he said, look, I went, Glasgow Celtic are the latest football club to be interested in Anton Rogan. So, oh my God, that's brilliant.
Yeah. What was your reaction then? Like, Jesus.
Well, I just looked at it and thinking it's just true, you know, because as I say, a year ago I was playing for a schoolboy team, basically, you know, we're all my mates. And then all of a sudden I've just went from that to that down. And the interest lasted for quite a bit, actually, you know, it was quite good. But then there was other clubs and I went and trialled the Arsenal for 2 weeks, actually.
Oh, really?
But this was when I was about 17, I think, and I hated it, Dan. You know, and I didn't hate not the club or anything like that. I just didn't want to be away from home. Cool. And I'm thinking, it's just the way it's going to be for me from now on. So I get back from the Arsenal thing and started playing again in the first team, and then the Celtic issue come up. And apparently, well, it's the fact I was supposed to sign on the Monday afternoon, and I broke my leg on the Saturday.
Oh dear.
So I was laying in the middle of Seaview. Crusaders, they call them Crusaders, are from a club in Belfast, and it was midwinter. And it was a hell of a snap, you know, and everybody knew it was broke, you know. But seriously, Dan, I'll never forget as long as I live. I lay on the pitch. It was freezing cold. They couldn't find the stretcher. 25 minutes I lay on the pitch.
I shouldn't be laughing.
No, you have to laugh. I have to laugh. And I wasn't worried about my leg. I'm thinking, I'm freezing. Can somebody get me a coat?
Just a blanket will do for now. Don't worry about the stretcher. Just a little bit of warmth.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Somebody just put a blanket over me. So anyway, off I went. Hospital, bang, broke. I was 12 weeks in plaster. Lucky enough, it was on my tibia and it was a clean breakdown, you know, so there wasn't that many issues. It would definitely heal, but it would take a little bit of time, you know?
Yeah.
So bang, 12 weeks in plaster, one up to my thigh for 6 weeks, and then up to my knee for another 6 weeks, and then bang, I got it off. Started training with the Distillery. Obviously, the lads were looking after me and looking out for me all the time. Get fit again, and then Celtic phoned up again and says, right, we're going to the Celtic under-20s. Are going to a tournament in Groningen in Holland. Yeah. We'd like to invite Anton along, you know, just to see how he is and to see, you know, how he's coping with his injury and all that. And this is gospel, Dan. I played the first game. It was in Groningen. Have you heard of Groningen in Holland?
Yeah.
They've got a good side now. I was on the pitch 10 minutes, right? And we're playing against, I can't remember the name of the German side, but all of a sudden I went to clear the ball. I was playing centre half. And bang, this big German lad just cracked me right in the same place.
Oh, no.
My shin pad, bang. I was laying on the ground. I'm going, oh my God, here we go again. So I was laying there. They got lucky enough to stretch. It was only a couple of minutes on. So they carried me off. I'm sitting on the side of the pitch. Bobby Lennox. Don't know if you've heard of Bobby Lennox. No. Bobby's a legend at Celtic. He played in the Lisbon Lions team. He was managing us. And he says, Anton, what do you think? I said, Bobby, it's broke again. I know it is. So he says, right, we need to bring you to the hospital. So they brought me to this hospital in Groningen, and I walked in and they took an x-ray and the doctor came out. He handed me a crutch and he went, I says, was that it? He says, oh, it's not broken. And obviously I can't speak Dutch and he was struggling with English, you know. So I went, I know it's broken. I've only done it last year. I know it's the same thing.
Of course.
Oh, no, the x-ray says it's clear. So they give me one crutch down. I walked around the rest of that tournament for 3 days on a crutch, you know, and this is gospel. God. And I said to Bobby, it's broke. He says, Anton, as soon as we get on the plane, because I was flying straight back to Belfast from there, the rest of the lads were going to Glasgow. And I phoned my mum and dad, and somebody came to pick me up at the airport. I was straight to the Royal Victoria Hospital in Belfast, and I was in plaster for another 12 weeks, which was unbelievable, you know. And I'm thinking, man, Dan, I go, all right, that's it, kaput, you know. I'm thinking, even all my mates, my mum and dad, everybody was going, oh, well, that's, you know, it's twice.
Do you know what I was going to ask you? You know, with your, it's a funny one because when I was growing up, where I live, sort of on the outskirts of southeast London, we had a very good catchment area. We played Sunday football, sort of 9 of 11 of us played for pro clubs, and it was very intense and very pressurised. But you've got, and very, I don't know if you know Tony Warner, he sort of, as you just said, quite just sort of casually breezed into it. At that point, you know, you said you could take it or leave it in the early days. You like football, you like Gaelic football. At that point, I was going to say, was you thinking, fuck this?
Oh, Dan, that's exactly what I thought. As soon as I put that plaster on in the Royal Victoria the second time, it was they said, well, you'll have it for 10 weeks this time. I'm thinking 10 weeks. Oh, Christ, here we go again. So I done it anyway. I get through it, and to be fair, the distillery were brilliant for me as well. Like as soon as my plaster was off, I was up training with all the lads again, and the older blokes again, like Marty Quinn, Birdie, Buster, different lads, both, as I say, both religions in Belfast. They all looked after me so well, you know. And then, touch wood, Dan, I get fit again. As I was fit when I was about 20 by this time, because it took basically near enough 2 years to get over both these injuries, you know. And then to be fair on Celtic, I got back then again in Celtic, with Davy Hay, the manager, legend in England as well, Davy at Chelsea. Davy says, look, this lad's had a lot of issues with his leg, and he's been through the mill. So we're going to sign him. We're going to give him a 2-year contract anyway. So bang, I was 20, 1986 I left. On I went to play for Celtic. But if you want, I arrived and I was in digs with this family, you know, and I'm thinking, hold on, I'm 20 years of age. And they put me in digs with an old lady and an old gent. They were lovely people, Dan, you know what? I could have done this when I was 15 or 16, but not 20. You know what I'm saying? They didn't appreciate you coming in at 4 a.m. and forgetting your door key. That was the issue. That was definitely the issue. That was one of the issues. There was a couple of issues. But, and as I say, they were brilliant to me. But lucky enough, another lad from Belfast signed for Celtic at the same time, Alan McKnight. Don't know if you remember him. He was a goalkeeper.
Goalkeeper, yeah, played with Portsmouth as well.
Big Alan, that's it, yeah, Big Al. And he bought a little house, and he said to me one day, he says, look, Rogue, I know you don't like digs. This was probably November. I'd been there 3 or 4 months. I was doing really well in the reserves, but I was itching to get home because I'm thinking, I don't like this. I don't like that. I had to get the bus into training in the mornings, and I had to pay most of the money to my digs, and I had no money either, Dan, believe it or not, because the wages were abysmal, you know, and that's the way it was in them days. So I went, all right, I'll move in. I went home at Christmas, Dan, a 2-year contract. I went home at Christmas, and I'm sitting in the house. All my mates are up, my mom, dad, all my family and friends all up. Yeah, great Christmas Eve, great Christmas Day. And I was sitting there, I looked at a couple of my mates, and I went, I'm not coming back, boys. I'm not coming back.
Well, did they say, come on, mate, get real here, it's an opportunity.
You know, really here. And my dad heard me, and he came over, and they were all sitting there, one of my brother-in-laws, and look, even go and do one season, you know, just do this year, and then if you like here that much, leave your second year. So I'm going, no, I'm not going back. I'd already, when I was flying over, Dan, I'd already made my mind up, but I didn't want to go back, you know, because it was, for me, it was no life. I was coming home from training, I didn't know anybody. Had to get the bus into training, 2 buses every morning, then get home and sitting in the house on my own, because Al wouldn't be on. Well, this isn't a life, you know. But as I say, I kept grinding it out and doing really well in the reserves. Every time there was a reserve game, I was playing, and I done really well. But I didn't seem to be thinking, is anybody seeing this, or is anything happening here? So, as I say, back to Christmas Day, I'm sitting there, and every morning I'm like, look, you have to go back. Even just stay to the end of the season, and if you don't like it, come back then. At least you had to go. With a heavy head, I went back, you know. As you know, the New Year's Day in Glasgow's New Year's game is massive in Glasgow, isn't it? Celtic and Rangers. Rangers beat Celtic 2-0 on New Year's Day at Ibrox. And I was training with the reserves the next day because the first team were off. And then the day after was a Thursday, I think it was. And Bobby Lennox came up to me and says, Anton, you're training with the first team today. And I'm thinking, oh, sorry, I'm obviously just making up the numbers, do you know? And
well, I saw this on, I've obviously done my research, and I saw, you know, Anton Rogan got his chance because, no disrespect to you, so-and-so was injured, so-and-so was suspended, and so-and-so was injured. I was like, how many left backs did they have?
That's exactly what it was. As I say, I on Thursday morning, Bobby says, Anthony with the first team. So off I went, trundled along, training with the first team. after training, the manager come up to Davey and says, Anton, you're with us tomorrow again. And you could be with us Saturday. And I thought, oh my God, that's good. So I trained with the first team on the Friday morning again. And after training, he named the team. And number 3, Anton. And I went, oh my God, is this fucking wind up? And then all of a sudden, Dad, I'm thinking, I'm playing tomorrow at Parkhead. Do you know I'm going? So I phoned home. That night, 5 of my friends came over on the boat. They got some cars. I don't know where the hell I got the cars from because none of them could drive. But the next thing I walked out, walking into the ground that day. Tommy Burns, bless him, who's dead now, another legend, Celtic, gave me a lift in. And I played that day, Dan. All my mates would come over the outside. And when I was walking out, they were all there. And I thought, oh, that's brilliant. I'll tell you one thing, Dan. You see, as soon as I stepped onto that pitch, my life changed 100%.
Different animal.
Only because I was there. Do you understand what I'm saying? If I had been sitting in the reserves and nobody for the rest of that year, but see that day, the most defining moment of my lifetime. It was unbelievable.
Mate, so many questions. Like, for one, you know, how good you must have been to come back from that double leg break and still be the level you could play at as a youngster.
Yeah.
How good you must have been for Celtic to think, you know what, we're going to give him a contract regardless. And also, you know, you said, you know, he was quite casual with it. During your dark times, what made you go back when you really didn't want to? Was it peer pressure, or was it just maybe there is something here that can...
Nobody sort of put any pressure on me. It just said, look, just go back and see how it is. And to be fair, they were 100% right. Because you know probably as well, in life, Dan, you get chances at things, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer than other times for it to work. And that's what happened to me there.
It's mad. It's like sliding doors moments sometimes, isn't it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. And as I say, if I hadn't been named in the first team that day, you know, God knows where I would have been now or whatever. You don't know these things. But as I say, Dan, see, as soon as I played for the first team that day, my life changed 100% because I was getting lifts to training. Anybody says, Anton, do you need anything? Do you need any furniture? Do you need you're buying a little house? Do you need anything? It was unbelievable the way people would just come to you and give you stuff, Dad.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Only because you were in the first team. And that's the level of these sort of clubs, you know?
Oh, mate, I did say to you off air before we started, you know, and you'll put me right here. I said, no disrespect to Oxford because they're a great club. And they was actually in the late 80s when I was a child, they was in the top division. The clubs you've played for, Sunderland, Celtic, Millwall, they're very unique, very intense, I think was the word that you used.
It is indeed. And to be fair, the 3 of them, there was no difference in the 3 of them. Seriously, that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
And the 3 of them, for me, for different levels and different parts of my life, they were just 3 great clubs. I love them. I love Oxford because I'm still here. I've stayed in Oxford, you know, because my wife's from Oxford. I met her in 81 or something, 82, when I come down here. But I love around here, Dan. You know, it's a great place. But even towards the end, obviously, when I went to Blackpool and stuff, obviously, I only played a couple of games because of such a bad injury behind my knee. But as was said earlier on, these 3 clubs, you know, people would dream to play for 3 clubs.
Unbelievable, mate.
For such sort of levels of support and the whole intensity of the club. The clubs are fantastic places, you know, the 3 of them, because not only is it the supporters, it's just the aura around the whole club is brilliant, isn't it? Because they've all got brilliant names in football. And as I say, I was so lucky to play for the 3 of them. And as I say, Oxford as well. I put Oxford in there as well, Dan, because I think I mentioned it earlier on. Oxford away support probably is unbelievable. Absolutely. The home support was a bit sat down and clocked and whatever. But away fans at Oxford were absolutely brilliant. I would put them up there with the other ones as well, their away support.
Brilliant, mate. Some fantastic clubs you played for. And eventually, in 1995, you make your way to South Bermondsey. Well, yeah, it would have been South Bermondsey, Millwall Football Club.
Yeah.
How did that come about, Millwall? Were there other clubs interested? Who sold the dream to you?
At Oxford, I ripped my hamstring, the last sort of towards the end of my contract at Oxford. It was a really bad rip. So it took me basically 7-8 months to get that back fit again. And I never really get playing the way I wanted to play. And obviously through reasons, there's other players coming in and out. So I got released. And I was released one day, Big Mick phoned me, because I played with Mick at Celtic, you know.
Of course.
I played for Mick at Celtic. He says, "Rogue, what's wrong?" I says, Mick, I've had a nightmare of an injury. And I haven't been struggling. I reckon I'm going to get myself sort of fit again anyway and see what happens. He says, right, come down, I'll have a look. And then I was there 2 weeks and he signed me, you know. And I love Big Mick. He's a great bloke, you know. One of my
what's a career? What a career in football he's had. Just finished. Obviously left Cardiff, but not to say he's finished yet. But he took over as Millwall manager from Bruce Rioch, player manager, when I was like 13.
Yeah, he's I love Mick. Mick's a great lad. You know, he's just football. It's just football for me.
Yeah, we've had a lot of players who played under him, and they've all said he's just, you know, he don't pull no punches. He tells you how it is. You don't like it,
he can leave, walk away. You know, that's Mick. That's the way he is. There's no hidden agendas for Mick. You know, as I said, he sees something, he said it, and that's just the way he is, and that's why I like him. You know.
Yeah,
I've played with a couple. I'm not mentioning names, but there's a few people I've dealt with in football and coaches who say one thing to you and then all of a sudden do the complete opposite. I don't like that sort of stuff, you know, Dan. If someone's going to tell me something, I want them to tell me straight, you know.
Yeah, cool.
That's basically the way it is.
It might not be what you want to hear, but if it's the truth, then you respect that.
Exactly. And you adjust to the truth, don't you? If you don't like it, do what you have to do, but you have to take it.
Yeah, cool.
You know,
so you signed for Millwall. First impressions of the club, the fans, and I think I've tried to look up your debut. Was it a defeat to Charlton?
Yeah, it was indeed. It was indeed, because I played a lot of, and trying to get fit, Dan, when I first signed was hard, you know, because you need games, don't you? And I got a few games in the reserves, but my debut was against Charlton, you know, and I don't even still think I was properly fit, you know. But I played, I loved it, you know. Just to get out again. I remember it was pissing down the rain. There's a lovely picture of me in one of the papers, and that's a lovely picture. But I mean, in one, I think it was the South London Press. The rain's just coming down because it pissed down the whole match, didn't it? And we had the blue sort of I love that Millwall strip, that one. And then
was it the South London Press on the front?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah,
that was it. It was a lovely shade of blue, that one, I think.
Yeah,
you know?
It was nice. It was nice.
And plus, I've got the green and white one, which I like as well. I don't know if you probably wouldn't remember the green and white one. I've got a picture of me in the green and white one, and I'm going to put it on the screen now, not for you, obviously, but for the edited cut. There's me. Yeah, I love it, mate. Do you want me to go and grab mine and put it on? I've still got it.
No, that'll must be too much. I think I'll pass out. It'd be fucking brilliant. But yeah, mate.
I'll go and stick it on.
Mate, that is
I'll go and stick it on.
I'll
go and grab it. There you are, Dan. It still fits.
Oh, dear.
It still fits as well.
Mate, when I'm not doing you a disjustice, but they were baggy back then, the kids, weren't they?
Yeah, that's still a bit baggy on my arm.
Oh, mate, look at that. Tell you what, if you ever, not saying you would, ever become skint, they go for about £1,000 on eBay.
You know, I've got a lovely collection of jerseys, Dan, obviously, because if you even go back, I played in 4 finals in a row in Scotland.
Yeah.
I played the Cup Final 88, the Cup Final 89, the Cup Final in 90 when I missed the penalty in the Cup Final against Aberdeen. Well, the keeper saved it. 91, I played in the League Cup Final. I arrived at Sunderland in 92, I played in the FA Cup Final.
Brilliant.
So I've got a lovely selection of shirts, Dan, you know.
I can't stop looking at that.
Yeah, brilliant, isn't it?
Still got has it got the free dog on the back?
It's number 8.
Oh, it's 8.
That's it. I don't know. I think at the end, because the old, what do you call them? The kit man, he's saying, right, he's hard out having them, and then the last game of the season, they threw them in. I went, I'm just having one anyway.
I mean, nowadays players sort of they give them away every game, but back then it wasn't like that, was it? Gold.
You get home drawn. You would have got home drawn and quartered. Seriously, Dan, you took something out of the dressing room, because that kit you usually had lasted all season, and that's the way it was in them days. And as I say, this was the last day of the season, and I just grabbed this one.
Fair play. I literally can't stop looking at it. It's unbelievable, brilliant. Fantastic bit of 90s nostalgia, and that's what
it
show's all about, mate. It's what the show's all about.
That is indeed.
Right, I've got to focus. What was your living situation? I always delve into random things. Like, we had Etienne Verveer on the show. I think you came after he left, and he said to me, I shopped at Sainsbury's and I lived next to Casey Kelleher. And I said, we saw the football, and obviously you was great, scored some great goals, but I love all the personal sides. If you don't mind sharing that, because I imagine by this point you was probably married with children. So did you move down to London? Did you travel it? Who did you stay with?
You know, I travelled in every day, believe it or not, Dan, from Oxford.
M40, it's not too far, is it?
Seriously, if you get a quick run over Westminster Bridge, straight up, you know, over Westminster, out that way and up, I could do it in 2 hours every morning. And to be fair, I loved it. I love driving through London every day because I thought it was such a fantastic place. But I had to go to Bromley because we trained in Bromley then.
Of course, yeah.
Basically the whole way up, back at the far end again.
I just said that's easy enough. It's not easy. It's a bastard of a journey, really.
Oh, it's a nightmare some days. It's a nightmare. But I was just saying, believe it or not, I have a friend who lived in the Wendover, you know, on the old, in down that neck of the woods, John.
Yeah, right.
He's from he was one of my friends from Belfast. And on a little poignant note, they moved back to Ireland. John and Liz, when was it, about 6 years ago? Liz was English. They moved to a school teacher, lovely girl. They moved back to Ireland and they had it all settled. And I got a phone call a couple of weeks ago down to say that Liz had taken a heart attack and died. His wife, you know, which, because I stayed with him maybe, well, near enough every week. I stayed with him at some stage after a Tuesday night game.
Sorry to hear that, mate.
Yeah, me and John were going to have a few beers, and then I've had Wednesday off. I'd actually stay down with him, and then I would go out, have a razzle all day with Wednesday as well, which is absolutely brilliant. I used to go another little pub, the lads and those, the Prince of Wales. It was on East Street.
Yeah, it's just right back in the Elkin Road. Yeah.
Yeah, that was run by a lad called Seamus Darby, I remember, and I think he played Gaelic football for Dublin, believe it or not, just before he moved over.
Right.
And so it was a stroke little sort of Irish pub, but all sorts in it. But what a lovely little spot it was. I loved it, you know, absolutely loved it. And as I say, I stayed with John once a week. Him and Big Alan would go out after the games, another big Millwall fan from down there. And it was absolutely hilarious. And the laugh I had down there, Dan, was brilliant. No, I'm just so sorry about Liz, you know, and I told John that I spoke to John today and says, "You okay by man?" She says, "Oh, Rogue, I would love it if you mentioned her." So I've just mentioned.
Well, there you go. Shout out to John's wife. What was her name?
Liz.
Liz. Shout out to Liz for this one, for this show. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, thank you. And just another, before we move on, just another little one for Walter Smith as well. You know, I've met, obviously, Walter was a Rangers manager when I was there, but I was lucky enough to meet him a couple of times without football, and one of the nicest people you'd ever meet. And just, as I say, regards to his family and friends from me as well, you know.
Yes, mate, definitely.
Yeah.
You say your living situation, you travelled in, but who was you close to in the squad? Did you find it? I spoke to, I think it's Paul Moody, who played for me, you know, in the 2000s, and he said, I travelled in from sort of down by the A3 every day, so I didn't really get involved too much with the culture of the players. How did you cope with that management?
I played with Big Moods as well at Oxford.
Some striker, a big tree, isn't he?
He was unbelievable, that boy. When he wanted to play, he could play, but most times he just couldn't be bothered. That's the way he was. He knows that himself, and you know, he'd be the first to admit that. No, I had a great, excuse me, I had a great little social time there now because Ricky Newman arrived from Palace. Obviously, there was a bit of a little issue there with some people, and then Morris Doyle, you probably remember him, and he played a few games.
Morris has this one. We're kind of come up to them in my notes.
Little Doyle.
James Connor, or was it James O'Connor?
Oh, James, them two lovely lads, James
and Morris Doyle. James Connor, from I remember when I was like 14, James Connor was going to be the next big thing. He was unbelievable. He just vanished.
That's exactly what happened with James, and such a nice lad as well, Dan.
Yeah.
When you speak to James and Little Doyle, tell them I said hello to him, because they're the ones basically that I run around with.
Yeah, oh really? You know? Well, I have tracked down Morris Doyle on Twitter and I've fired into him. I've not heard anything back yet, but all I remember about Morris Doyle was little central midfielder, quite short, little like crew cut. Is it like a little army haircut?
That was him. That was.
And he scored a fantastic last minute. It was either a winner or an equaliser, like a Wyatt Berry or something like that, like from 30 yards.
Yeah, he did indeed. That's right. Yeah. Little Doyley's one of these people. He would just run around and kick his own players as well. You know, Doyley used to kick people in the warm up, Dan. You know, that's just the way he was.
Yeah,
but he was a lovely lad, really nice lad.
In my notes, I've got James Connor and Morris Doyle. I do that quite a lot. I've got the Russians written down. I'm not sure if you cross paths with them.
What ones with that? What do you call
Uran and Kolkov?
Oh no, I never played with him. I remember Big Uwe Fuchs. He played with me for a bit.
Been trying to track down Uwe as well, yeah.
Yeah, and what was he like? There was Reno. I love Reno. Reno just sort of epitomised Millwall, you know.
Yeah.
If you didn't know, if you went on the pitch and you're playing against Millwall and you didn't know Reno before it, you'd know him after it. That's just the way it was, wasn't it? He's a great lad, Reno. And I've been out with Reno a few times drinking a little Alec, obviously. Alec Ray.
Alec Ray, he's been. I can't get Rhino on. Apparently, he's too miserable to come on. But I've had Alex on. He's coming back on as well, Alex.
That does not shock me with Reno. That does not shock me with Reno.
I actually know his cousin. I know a couple of members, like, people close to him, and they're like, look, it's not that he don't. It's not happening.
That is Reno all over. To be fair, like Dan, 15 years ago, 10 years ago, even if someone had asked me to do this, I went, no chance.
Oh, really?
I would have went, oh, not a hope in hell. You won't get me doing anything like that. But it's just been the last 5-6 years. I've done a lot at Celtic. I've done a couple at Sunderland. Oxford. Sometimes they're always on me to do it. And
yeah,
to be fair, I don't mind doing it now. And I'm actually quite enjoying it. Believe it or not.
I think a lot of the time, some people say it's like therapy.
Yeah, that's it. Is. It's very good. For me, it's great. But excuse me, because as I say, I'm telling little things that I'll probably never tell anybody before.
Yeah, that's always the plan, mate. That's always the plan. And if you decide afterwards you shouldn't have told me, then they'll stay with me, and I'll leave them out the edit.
No, mate. Everything I say is going, mate.
So unfortunately, above James Conner and Maurice Doyle and the Russians and Uwe Fuchs that I've now scribbled out, I've got ended up relegated. Last day he was on the bench away at Ipswich. So Mick McCarthy brings you in.
Yeah.
Probably with like, come join us, Anton. We're going to get promoted. Wish at Christmas we was top.
It was unbelievable.
Sudden, mate, the capitulation was unbelievable. I think we used 38 first-team players that year.
Dan, in my time in football, I just don't think I've ever seen anything like that before. I don't know if it's ever happened before, but top at Christmas they didn't get relegated. Has it ever happened? I don't know. I've never looked into it, but
crazy, mate.
It wasn't nice. I remember that day at Ipswich. I was on the bench. I was just getting a bit fitter, and Mick put me on the bench. And I'm thinking, oh God, this ain't going to be good today. Because it was just the omens were all there. It was awful.
It was like we went into that last day, and I think it was, we still would have taken like a mathematical miracle for us to go down, but like it just happened. And what was by this point, Jimmy Nicholl would have been manager.
And Jimmy's another lad. When I played for Celtic, Jimmy played for Rangers.
Yeah.
So and then Jimmy turns up and he says, Anton, look, I want you here. I know you're from Celtic. I just want you here anyway. And then, as I say, that I got myself fit. And he brought down all the Scottish lads. I don't know if you remember
I've got it here. I got it again. Yeah. The Scottish Free. There you go.
The influx, yeah.
Mate,
what ones have you got?
Mate, this is the season which wasn't a fantastic time at the club, productively and stats wise, but it's one that's always fascinated me because you had 38 players used. We went into administration. You had young players, old players, good players, bad players, but we also had the makings of the 2000 side in the youth team that would later go on to big things. Tim Cahill, Stephen Reed.
Yeah.
So, 30. I've got it in here. 36 players used in the 96-97 season, which was the season we went into administration.
Yeah, it was. That's right.
What do you remember about that? And did you have any dealings with Theo or?
The players in them days when things went like that, we didn't know anything, Dan. Basically, and that's just the way it was. We didn't know. Well, my contract was up at the end of the season. And I'm thinking, well, what do you do? Because there's nobody to speak to within the club, because who do you speak to when that happens?
Well, mate, we're going to get onto this. We're going to get onto this later. Sorry to cut you off. How the fuck you didn't get a new contract playing 30 games and scoring 8 goals from left back?
I know. No, but there was,
we'll delve into that. We'll delve into that later. Let's get back to the administration.
Yeah. As I say, Dan, I did not know what was going on. I left that day and the end of the season, and then I never heard from anybody for. Well, ever. Seriously. And that was it. That's when Nigel Worthington phoned me, as I say again, a lad I played with. He says, Rogue, what's wrong? He says, well, Millwall have went into administration. I don't know if they want me to sign a contract, or I don't know if I've still got a future there because I haven't heard from anybody.
Pop back down the training ground with that shirt on. They might never notice.
Yeah, I never thought of that actually. But believe it or not, Dan, that summer, John and Liz came up to stay in my house in Oxford because me and Nicky went away on our holidays. Okay. And I said to John and Liz, look, we're away for 2 weeks. Come up to Oxford, do what you want in the house. So bang, I left them the keys. He phoned me one day when I was away, me and Nicky, and this is gospel. He says, Rogue, you know something? Because Billy Bonds, did he take over then?
Yeah, Billy Bonds was there. Yeah, of course, Billy Bonds was there at one point. I mean, it was You could. I said free manager on social media. It could have been. Was you involved with Billy Bonds? Or that was later.
No. But Billy Bonds, this is easy. John told me when I was away, and when I come back, actually, he says, Anton, do you know something? Your phone went one day, and because I hadn't got a mobile at the time. Mobiles were just still on the...
Just coming in on like 98, weren't they? Yeah.
They were just growing, And he says, Anton, do you know, Billy Bonds just phoned your house, and I was speaking to him. And I told him, and this is what John said. He says he wants to speak. Yeah. I says, when was this? He says, this was last week. I couldn't get hold of you. So I'm thinking, well, if he wants to ring me back again anyway, but I never heard again. And then, as I say that, I left it a couple of weeks. I'm thinking, nah, maybe this could be the end, This is probably the end anyway. I had a good run. I loved it. And then I was sitting in the house one day and the phone went. It was Major Worthington, an old player as well I played with. I don't know if you know. He was manager. He played for
left
Lee.
back, Sheffield Wednesday, played, yeah.
Yeah. He says, he phoned me up and says, look, Rogue, do you fancy coming to Blackpool? I don't need to have a look at you. Are you fit? I says, well, I'm as fit as maybe I'm going to get, Yeah. So he says, I'll sign you anyway. So he signed me, and then, as I say, I had a nightmare. The first to second game, I'm running around and something went behind my knee. The cut long story short, the artery was blocked behind my knee and there was no blood getting into my leg. So I had to get a major operation done.
That can be really serious.
It could be deadly. It could be deadly. But the surgeons who done the operation and stuff, Dan said, look, there's nothing really to worry about because it's only there behind your knee on your artery. It's not anywhere else. And they've never ever seen this before on anybody. So I got them done. I got the operation done. But basically that was, he said,
that was you done. Getting back to that 96-97 season, okay, we was in the third tier of English football.
Yep.
You joined us as obviously what will now be a championship side. Loads of players in and out the door. Very, controversial and up in the air time at the club. But so on a personal level, we finished 14th in the table. We scored 8 goals from left back. Some great goals. I posted on social media earlier as well.
I think
headers, penalties.
I think at one stage someone said I scored 8 in something like 14 games.
Yeah, you scored 5 goals in 7 games in October alone.
Is that what it was? I'll take that. I'll take that all day long, mate. But I loved it, and as I say, a couple of them were penalties. A couple of penalties. Well, I think it was 3 penalties, and the rest. There's John and Alan still talking about like the little goal against Bury. When I chipped the keeper. They were all there that night. He says, "Oh, that was fantastic," And I went, "Oh, it's nice just to have a little bit of accolade like that,
Rogan's goal-scoring exploits from left back were proving invaluable. Against champions-elect Bury on October the 16th, he produced another super strike to win the game and take the Lions back up to second.
What I've done is, mate, I've put them all together, all your goals that are on YouTube, and I'll send it to you. I've had to put them all together so I can send it to you.
I'll do that, because I've never seen them. I've never seen any of my goals.
I'll send that to you. All the goals, there's about 8 goals on there. I'll tell you what, there's 1 goal that's not on there, right? And I'll always remember this because, unfortunately, my friend, I was only 15, 16 at the time. My friend, he's no longer with us, who I was with that day, was my age. And we was playing terribly. And you scored an unbelievable goal. I used to sit in block 16 then opposite the dugouts.
Yeah.
And you scored it at the away end where the away fans sit. And I've jumped up and he sat like that. And I've gone, get up. And he's gone, no. And bear in mind, we're teenagers at this point. So there's no you teenage, you just go mad. He went, no, because we didn't deserve it. We didn't deserve that. Like sulking. I went, shut up, you fucking idiot. Get up.
Football fans are brilliant, Dan, as you know. I love them. They're fantastic race.
Yeah, we are an individual breed, shall we say?
It's brilliant. I love it. Absolutely loved it. But Dan, I've been brilliant because I've never, all my life, I've never seen. I scored 6 for Celtic. I've never seen one of them. I scored a few for Sunderland. I scored a few for Oxford. I've never seen, and this is gospel. I've never seen one of my goals ever.
Well, there's a guy on YouTube. He's called Millwall Jonesy 1885. So shout out to him for putting all your goals on there. But what I've done is I've put them all into one sequence. All the ones I can find. A couple of penalties, a couple of great headers as well. Great headers.
Yeah, there was a couple of great headers.
Stockport at home, and I remember this as well. I was a teenager. Midweek game, we lost 4-3.
That's right. I remember.
And I'm sure that the Stockport players got clapped off the pitch that night.
Yeah,
by the Millwall fans.
Yeah, they did.
You scored 2 that night.
Yeah, I did. I did indeed. Yeah, that was how we lost that match is beyond me, Dan. I still think, how the hell did we lose that? You know, we were cruising the whole game and we get beat 4-3.
It didn't take the Lions long to produce a response. Anton Rogan, with the aid of a slight deflection, beat Paul Jones. All ends up in this rocket. To Millwall's credit, they didn't give up. And when Rogan headed his second of the night, the Lions had a lifeline.
But as you say, football's unbelievably, it's got a knack for throwing up the things that you don't expect. And that's why we love it sometimes, you know.
Absolutely. That era of Millwall, we had the great cup run of 94, 95, and then you came the year after. And then we sort of got going again in the sort of 2000s, got promoted. But this era that you played in, I've interviewed so many players. It fascinates me. If you look at some of the different players we had, say experienced, new players, Ray Wilkins, Mark Bright, Darren Huckabee coming through.
Huck, yes,
I've got the Scottish three, and I've written down Greg Berry as well, just for the crack.
Greg, great lad. Greg's another great lad. We had a little trip to Magaluf at the end of '87, I think it was. The team went to Magaluf. Greg was my room partner. You know,
was he?
Bless him.
I've heard we've had Mark Bircham on the show, and he's told us some great stories about Ray, similar to that.
Yeah. Birch is another classic. You know, I just say there were some great lads in that dressing room. You know, some great lads. See, when you say the Scottish three, what Scottish ones did you mean?
Jason Bear, Steve Crawford, Davy Sinclair.
And Mark, what do you call him? Little Paul Hartley as well, do you remember?
Yeah, Paul Hartley, Steve Crawford, Davy Sinclair. They were the three.
Jason Dare, 4.
Oh, 4. Sorry.
See,
Jason Dare was so bad, I forgot about him.
Yeah. He was. Poor old Jason be crucified, I know he did. Because I sort of kept looking at Scottish football and I knew a few people still involved. And Jason was the next big thing in Scottish football. But, you know, I think the bright lights of London killed him and Sinky and sort of because I think they were too busy out enjoying themselves, you know, which does happen sometimes, Dan, you know.
Yeah, well, Stevie Crawford and Paul Hartley were quite good players, but we got told, you know, these players are coming down. Davy Sinclair, I think it was something ridiculous, like he's an animal, he's this, he's that, and he just went under, didn't he? Just went under.
It was just one of them things. I think that they get hyped up a little bit too much sometimes as well, you know, Dan, which does happen in football. And Jimmy, did all he could for them, you know. Jimmy bent over backwards for them. Nothing too sinister, you know. Some dressing rooms can get a bit clicky and whatever, but that never seemed to happen with us, you know. Everybody seemed to stick together.
Another player I want to ask you about is I've seen him congratulate you in a lot of goals that you scored. Was Darren Huckabee. He was a frightening talent when he came on loan for us for a short time.
The pace he had, you know, was just unbelievable, mate. You know, Dan or Huck was just. But I don't know if he had the full, if he had enough push in him. No disrespect to Huck, he was a great player, but if you have that sort of talent, you have to keep pushing, don't you, Dan? And I don't think he did. I think he just sort of set on the rest on his morals, and whether he regrets it now or not, you don't know. But maybe he's happy and enjoyed what he did, you know. But if you had the talent Huck had, you'd have a proper go at it, you know. No, because he could have been England. He could have been England category very easily.
Oh, unbelievable player, mate! What a player!
Yeah, he was indeed.
You had Jimmy Nicol, and then Jimmy leaves while you're still there, and then John Dock comes in. Is that right?
Little Dock come in, yeah. And I'd never met Dock before, you know, and just we only seen him sporadically at the training and stuff, and it was just everything. Just the wheels seemed to just fell off the wagon, Dan. You know, by then, no matter what Little Dock done, we struggled to win. You know, we always struggled, and it was just I don't know. Maybe a rut that set in, which isn't nice to say in a football club, but with the administration, the manager, it was just as you say, there's just so much happened in such a short space of time there, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
You know, clubs can last 40, 50 years and not see stuff like that. We had it at Millwall in 2 years, basically, didn't we? All that.
Oh, no, it's absolutely like crazy time. But did you understand, obviously, the hype around Doc coming back? He was obviously a very old man at that point, but of course, he was the only manager to ever manage us to the top 5 English football. So I think the weight of expectation was huge still.
His status around there was legendary, but when you've got people like him coming in, you know, and I think he sort of realised himself as well, Dan, times have changed in the dressing rooms, you know. when Doc was in the dressing room, we had Big Cass, who I played with, Big Tony. I played with Cass at Celtic, you know, another great laddie, people like that.
Oh, of course.
And it's the dressing rooms, even in such a short space of time, can change, you know. And I don't think the Doc was a fairy little bugger, you know. He liked shouting at people, and players didn't like that in their days, mate. You know, you try not to upset players because they fall off their perch if you shouted too much at them. Never bothered me if somebody had to go at me, because if you needed it, you get it.
Of course.
But some players don't like it. I've come across a lot of players who don't like it and told off, but it's a fact of life. Sometimes it has to be done, you know.
Of course.
Especially if you're not winning.
What was your international stats at this time? Was you still a Northern Irish international whilst
I get back in the Northern Ireland squad then. You know, I get back in. Funny you should mention it. I don't know if you heard. I don't know if you know this, but my first international game for Northern Ireland was in 1987, and I was obviously out from the Falls Road in Belfast, the Celtic area, and I played for Celtic. But the vast majority of Northern Ireland fans down are Rangers fans, and Protestant, you know. And I was in the Billy Bingham. I was on the bench for my first international. It was against Poland, and well, this made headline news. You know, I stepped out of the dugout, and most of the stadium started booing me. You know. I'm saying I'm standing there thinking, this is a home. This is my supporters, and they're booing me coming on the pitch because I was playing for Celtic and Northern Ireland, and I can't.
Oh right, yeah, of course.
Unbelievable, mate. Well, it made headline news. You know, it was, and I'm standing there thinking, I really need this. I went, I'm going to do it anyway. I don't care. So I just done it, and then eventually they see that wasn't fucking bothering me, and they did leave me alone in the end. You know. Did that
sort of take the edge off it a bit, that, you know, representing your country, which is obviously a massive.
Not really for me, no, because for me that was just a complete aspect that shouldn't have been there, you know, and that's the way I looked at it. And I'm saying, well, if they want to do that, they can do me. It's up to them. But I'm here to play football and enjoy it, you know, and probably play the best level I want to play at. And international level is that, you know.
That's manly. What chance you got when your own fans are booing you?
I know, but I'll tell you a little story. Really hear this. You'll love this. I'll keep it nice and short. There's a reporter in Northern Ireland called Malcolm Brodie. He was a legendary in Belfast. He worked for the Belfast Telegraph. He's an absolute legend. And he was there that night. And he always seemed to, I always got on well with him. I got on well with most reporters. I never bother reporters. If they get slightly off, they slag you off. It's up to them. And then you don't get, I know players go, he slagged me off. I'm not speaking to him. I say, wait, he's up. You know, it's his job. If you're not playing well, you get slagged off. And that is football, no matter what level you're at. No matter what level you're at. But anyway, Malcolm seen that, and he was so sorry for me, and so he says that shouldn't have happened, and I'm disgusted about what happened there. Every year he would tell me, no matter at the end of the season, he would ring me, and then sometimes I'd go to Belfast and I'd meet him and have a pint at Belfast and just chat football. But every time he would ask me, Anton, come on, open up. You've never once said anything to any papers, because they were sticking cameras in my face when I was walking out, and as I say, all the papers were there, and he says, "Why you never spoke about it?" I says, "Well, for me, it's football. It happened. I don't want to start digging holes for myself, Dan. You know, I don't want to say, oh, they shouldn't have done." I says, "It's up to them. If they want to boo me coming on, they boo me coming on. I'm here."
One of them things, no matter what you say, it will be perceived and twisted. It won't be the right thing.
Exactly.
Keep quiet.
Exactly. But towards the end, I finished in whatever, in 87, 88, and then I come home in about 2003, and Malcolm phoned. He was still phoned. He died, 15 years ago. Anton, come on, tell me what you really felt that day. You know, and I met him. I went into Belfast. I was sitting in the Crown bar in Belfast, and Malcolm comes in. We're sitting there, had a pint, and he says, Anton, are you going to actually tell me what you really felt that night? So I'm sitting there saying, yeah, Malcolm, I'm ready to open up now, because it wasn't a nice night, you know. And he says, right, come on then, give us your opinion. I says, well, the thing that really annoyed me most about that night was my mum and dad were in the stand, the little scout and the manager who were there, you know, who made me sign for the distillery. Remember the two lads?
So the people who had stuck by you and you're telling the whole way through, they should be enjoying that moment, and they've got. And
I said, as I say, none of my mates would go down because they couldn't win. That's just the way it was. But anyway, we're sitting there, and I went, well, the thing that really annoyed me most, my mum and dad were up in the stand. Arthur was there, Roy Welch was there. He says, go on then, what was it? It says, my mum and dad started the brew. He looked at me, Dad, and went, "You're a fucker."
Imagine he's picturing that in his mind, looking up and seeing Barney Danny Rogan.
He had all that gear, and I went, yeah, I think it pissed me off. My mum and dad started to fucking do it. And he went, you're a bastard. But I said, Mum, I have nothing to say on it. And that's it. It's done and dusted. History, gone. Long forgot about it.
You seem to have like a relaxed approach to it all. And, you know, as I said, you're looking unbelievable. Because for me, these are weird because I was 14, 15 when you played. Now I'm a man, and you don't look any different. I feel like I'm going to do like Benjamin Button. You're going in the opposite direction to me. But you end up leaving the club, obviously, Millwall. You spoke about it then. You said you didn't know what the fuck was going on. When we was in administration, was you getting paid or whatever? And of course, as well, the last ever game you played for Millwall, you started at left back. We lost 2-0 to Bury.
Yeah,
this will be like a parallel universe for a lot of younger fans watching. Bury actually went up as champions that day.
Yeah,
into what would now be the championship and a 2-0 win. So what happens? You go and was you getting paid as players, or was you getting fucked around for your money?
No, I think to be fair on the club, we got our wages, for the next couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden it just stopped, and because there was no funds. I think that's the way it was, and I think that's when everybody sort of started. All the players were going, well, I need to start looking for a new club because I don't know where my future is going to be. And if the club can't tell you what direction you're going in, you have no chance. And as you know, football, it's all about, I know this may sound selfish, but you need to find a club to get paid.
You do.
And that's just football, mate. You don't get paid sitting in the house watching telly. You need to be out there training and playing.
People think because you're a footballer, you should do the right thing, but people don't realise it's your job. You've got a family, you've got bills to pay still. Yeah. Although it might be slightly bigger more because you've got a lovely big house.
Yeah.
you still got to pay those bills.
You do indeed, and it still comes in and out. And then children they're not cheap either,
So the day you left Millwall, what you just played that game at Bury, and then don't know what's going on there. Took your bag and
everybody just it's just a strange. There was all the lads were all sitting up in the back. We're all just sitting looking at each other, going, "This is," thinking, "What's next?" And I said, "Right, lads, will see us when." And everybody sort of shook each other's hands and walked out.
So who was the manager at this point? Was it John Dockstall?
That was Doc. Yeah.
And so who would it have been? Who would have been accountable for? Like, I know you probably didn't have one then. A player liaison officer. Like
that was Reno, because him and Reno of history anyway, didn't they? Reno played for him before as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
So, but there was no, as I say about John. I think John was old school dad, and he didn't. I don't know if I think he'd rather just get on the pitch and sort the football out instead of worrying about what's happening off it.
Cool.
If you understand what I'm saying,
Yeah.
So, but who looked after the stuff off it? That's an issue because nobody seemed to know, which is strange.
So maybe they just thought it's such a mess. We'll just see if players sort themselves out and see who comes back after the summer.
That could have happened, Dan. So that definitely could have happened. And then once we get sorted, we'll see who we've got left. And that's maybe it. But then, as I say, I got the call from Nigel, and I went, well, I can't wait around. I need to go. I'm off. So I was away, and that was it.
Then after obviously at Blackpool, you hung your boots up.
Yeah.
What have you been up to? What have you been up to since?
Another great club, But it was Blackpool is one of these places you either love or hate. I don't know if you've been there, but Blackpool is it's mad as when you get all the Glaswegians coming. And to be fair, when I went out in Glasgow, when I went out in Blackpool, some nights it's probably like going out in Glasgow because that's where they all go for their holidays. It's only 2 hours down the road, and all you see, believe it or not, in Blackpool is Celtic and Rangers shirts.
It just proves how cold it must be in Glasgow if they go to Blackpool for their summer holiday.
Exactly, 200 miles down the road. And to be fair, I've played in some cold places. I went from Belfast, which was Baltic, to Glasgow, which was horrendous, to the northeast. Sunderland, Jesus Christ, I've never seen wind blowing like it does in Sunderland, because the old Roker Park was right on the sea, basically.
Yeah.
And Christ, could that wind roar up there? Then I come down this side, and then I ended up back up at Blackpool. So I've basically just done a complete circle of Britain, mate, which was brilliant.
You used to turn up with a beach towel and sunglasses onto Millwall every day, didn't you?
Horrendous, mate. It was awful, mate. It was, as I say, Sunderland, out of all, it was probably the coldest place I've ever been. Because
really?
It was right on the North Sea, and the wind, I can still feel that running through me now, Just another little story about Sunderland you'll love. I was in a hotel when I first signed for Sunderland. They put me in a hotel, so I banged on my own. My ex-girlfriend was in Glasgow, so I was on my own in this hotel. Don Goodman signed. You know Don? So
Yeah, the striker, the old Wolf striker.
Yeah, Don was in this, me and Don were in the hotel together. Then a week later, John Byrne signed, who played for Millwall. Do you remember John?
I've inboxed John Byrne and said it didn't really work out for you at Millwall.
No,
but would you like to come on the show? I've not heard
He
back.
always said that. It didn't really work out down at Millwall. I said, well, that happens sometimes. But
funny enough, John Byrne, he follows me on Twitter.
Yeah.
And that's why I thought I'll ask him. I said, look, I know it didn't really work out, but we like to do all sides of, it's not what
John would do it for you, mate. He's a cracking lad, you know. Him and Don are probably two of my best mates in football. I still speak to them regular, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway, Sunderland, I was in the hotel, and the three of us were in the hotel. The drinking we used to do, Don, was just horrendous, you know, seriously. If we won on the Saturday, Dennis Smith, bless him, the manager, would go, right, lads, I'll see you on Wednesday. Don would look at me, and I'd look at Don. He'd say, you going to Glasgow this weekend? I'd say, well, I don't know. I says, Don signed from West Brom. I say, are you going down to Birmingham? We go, oh, I don't really know. Next thing we knew, well, we just stay. Tell our missus we've got training on Monday and Tuesday. Dan. Dan, unbelievable. We would start drinking after the game on a Saturday. Probably finish on Wednesday afternoon. Absolutely brilliant, mate. But in them days you were fit, you could do them things, couldn't you? You could get away with it.
Like, do you know what? Modern day footballers annoy me because they all want to do the Instagram photos and eat fucking couscous. I just get you make the most of what you got here. Get enjoy yourself.
Our hotel was in Durham. We used to go in and drink with all the punters. Do you know, it was brilliant. If you were crap, come up and say, you couldn't always say, yeah, you're not far wrong. Do you know, these players get the hump these days. But back to this story. There's a little shop across the road from us. I've still got it now. I'm not getting that out as well. I've got a green duffel coat, right? Like a Paddington duffel coat. I bought it in this little shop in Durham. You know, paid a couple, it was probably in them days, 200 quid, which is a lot of money for a coat. So I walked into training with it on one day, and I got absolutely ripped to shreds, right, by everybody in the dressing room. I said, you have no taste. Look at the state of all your gear. It's rotten. At least I've got a little bit of class. You know, that old chestnut. So, cut a long story short, man, off we go out training. We're training on Roker Park that day, and had our little training session. Dennis Smith says, right, lads, I want all you in the centre circle to have a little meeting. So we're all sitting there. I walk up the centre circle, we're sitting there. And Dennis looks at me, he says, hey, by the way, Rogue, he calls me Rogue, he says, what's the story with that coat? And I'm thinking, oh yeah, that's really funny. So obviously the manager's in on it now as well. He says, what's the story with that coat? He says, what's wrong with it? He says, I'll tell you what's wrong with it. Look up there. I looked up, Dan. They had it flying on the flagpole at Roker Park. Oh, that's fair play, lads. Absolutely.
You laugh now. Did you laugh at the time? It just cost you
200 quid. I just laughed. I thought, no, touche, you know. Take it for its due, mate. Absolutely brilliant.
I always end with a few questions. I always end with, first off, best Millwall memory.
The best
Millwall memory.
Mine was that goal against Bury. I loved it. I still haven't seen it. I told you I haven't seen any of my goals, but I want to see it.
It's sublime, mate. It's
yeah.
If your sons have got Instagram,
yeah,
they've probably got Instagram. Tell them to follow me on there because I uploaded it earlier, but I will send it to you anyway.
Dude,
and also, if you've got like a standout, like non-match memory, like something you could tell us from the dressing room or something, like shock us or excite us, or a story of
what, like being out with it, just even like
dressing room or being out or something we might not know.
Well, John and Alan, as I say, this is back to these two again, when I used to go out drinking with them on the Old Kent Road after Tuesday nights, because we always played on a Tuesday, do you remember?
Yeah.
And if he said, you've got Wednesday off, I'd say, right, I'm not going to go home, I'll stay down. So we'd just go from, and they sort of knew every pub around that area. You know, this is gospel, I found myself one night, it was after, I can't remember who we played, but I had the Wednesday off and I was staying down. And we're walking around all these different bars, and Easy and John were just banging on these doors, right, in these bars. The next thing, the window would open above, and it would be the landlord, and they'd go, come on, get out for a drink. And he'd look, it was empty, he'd go, yeah, come on in, lads. And this is gospel. One night we sat in this bar, and I swear to God, we had probably ended around 2 o'clock. The three of us sat there drinking until about 7 in the morning, right? Went over to John's. Liz, bless him, made us some breakfast, sitting there. He kept looking at his watch. He says, we're going to see if Seamus will open in the Prince of Wales. We were sitting in the Prince of Wales, that seriously, at 10 o'clock. We hadn't been to bed. Sitting in the Prince of Wales, and we sat there from 10 o'clock that morning to about 11 that night.
Oh,
and
my God.
And that was just, and there was people coming in, and people knew me. There was a couple of Millwall lads coming in, and I said, Jesus Christ, you're doing well sitting here drinking like that all day. I said, it's absolutely brilliant, mate. I loved it. I loved it down there, mate. Had a ball, an absolute ball.
That's superb, mate. If you could have a reunion tomorrow with 3 of your ex-Millwall teammates, go over a drink, do whatever you want, but you can only pick 3 of your ex-Millwall teammates, which 3 are you taking with you?
Do you know, I would pick Big Malks, obviously, because I was with him at Blackpool. Little Doyley and James Conner.
James Conner. I wonder if I could track him down.
I'll tell you what I love. And do you know another one, Scotty Fitzgerald? Do you remember Scott Fitzgerald?
He's still at Millwall.
Is Scotty still there?
He's to do with the youth setup.
Oh, if you see Scotty down, tell him I said hello.
I will do, mate.
I love Scotty's another great lad, you know. But as I say, we all got on well together. It was great crack, you know. Even big Damien Webber, people like that. Nice
He's
class,
another one I'm trying to find. Damien Webber, Lee McRobert.
What about Big Toe Witter? Have you found him?
I've fired into him with someone I think is his phone number, but I've not had anything back yet. But I'll keep trying, mate. We're on 52 shows, and it was back in the day when we used to do these. There was like 3 or 4 condensed into one show. So I've done like 60 ex-players, and I'll keep going until I get sort of 200.
Well done, mate. That's brilliant. I love it. Fair play, son. That's great what you're doing.
Mate, I love this more than the in-game stuff. I seem to get a lot more love for this than obviously saying get rid of our fucking manager right now. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, like you get more love for all this stuff. I love it. And what I'll do is I'll put this video together for you, and I'll put all your clips in, all your photos in.
That will be fantastic, son. That will be absolutely brilliant, Dan. I would love that. As I say, just to see the actual goals would be absolutely brilliant for me.
Yeah, what I'll do as soon as we're done, I'll send some of the goals to you, but I'll send you plenty over the next couple of weeks, mate. And I really appreciate having you on. It's been brilliant.
If you want, ring me a couple of number, Dan. Give me a buzz anytime you want, son.
Thank you, Anton. Cheers, mate.
Keep in touch.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, son. Bye bye.